Hi everyone, I'm George Farrar. Welcome to JAX 92, Jacksonville as it was in the year 1992. In 1992, I was 17, living on the Westside, not far from 103rd Street, and for me today, the memories are almost like just yesterday. The city at the time, you could say, looked grungier. We had a new mayor taking office in 1991, Ed Austin. He had been state attorney for many years, and he was bringing into his administration a leadership team of what I call the best and brightest. He made John Delaney, the city's general counsel, essentially the city's attorney, he made him his chief of staff. And John Delaney was an incredibly articulate, vibrant person. And of course, we know he ultimately became mayor after Ed Austin. And we would have Lex Hester, and he was a chief administrator under Hans Tanzler, who was mayor of Jacksonville from the late 1960s into the 1970s. And so he returned to Jacksonville. The times in Jacksonville were tough because of the recession. The Jacksonville shipyards, Merrill Stevens, the shipyards that were downtown closed, never to return. Its departure opened up riverfront land not far from the Gator Bowl. The administration was assembling and moving towards a bonanza government-funded urban renewal initiative called River City Renaissance that was heavily marketed towards getting a bond issued. It would come about in 1993. We'll be looking at its legacies during the remainder of our series. And there were great things that happened because of River City Renaissance, but I think that, and a lot of people agree, that there were unintended negative consequences that happened to occur. And I'll be talking about that for the remainder of our series. It would promise a new city hall at the St. James Building, which was designed by the legendary architect Henry J. Clutho, which had last served as a department store, Cohen Brothers, the big store, and then May Cohen's until the 1980s. A long-needed renovation was needed for what was called the Civic Auditorium, now the Times Union Center for the Performing Arts, to improve the acoustics, which were unfortunately legendarily bad. And of course, the Coliseum, which held everything from concerts to the circus to high school graduations to wrestling matches and everything in between. It promised a revival of Jacksonville's first suburb, LaVilla, a historic African-American neighborhood. The Ritz Theater, as you see it here from the 1980s, it fascinated me. Now, this is when it was abandoned. This is what I knew of it as a child, waiting in the family car to get on the interstate onto I-95 from where we lived in Arlington. And the theater fascinated me. I'd always dreamed about going back into time to see a movie there. And so these ideas, these thoughts about where the city could go greatly excited me, and I would read about them all the time in the Florida Times-Union in the newspaper. In 1992, there was a series of unfortunate tragic events that centered around motorists traveling on Interstate 295, the west side of Jacksonville. A woman was injured. Her jaw was greatly injured. A man had a chunk of concrete fall onto his windshield, and he was killed. There was a gang called the English Estates Posse, which I was aware of. I lived south of 118th Street, west of I-295 and 103rd Street. And my neighborhood was somewhat newer. The neighborhood where English Estates Posse was a little bit older, not by as much as you might think. I knew at the time to be careful and to be cautious, but at Forrest High School, now known as Westside High, I never really ran into any problems really with anybody. But there were problems in the neighborhoods. There was the usual graffiti and some of the things that went on. I lived what one could certainly possibly say was a somewhat sheltered life. So imagine my surprise when I heard about these things on the media, in the news, and saw, a lot of the local news coverage of it. And I was around a year out from driving, a year from that point, I would be driving on I-295. So certainly I was concerned, and my father, of course, drove up and down I-295 every day, as did my family and friends. So you have all these concerns, and then, well, to deal with it, they decided, Governor Lawton Chiles decided to call out the National Guard, Florida National Guard, and so the National Guard was deployed. The Florida Highway Patrol had beefed up patrols. Jacksonville Sheriff's Office was doing everything that they were doing, and so everything was put in a full court press out onto the freeway, out onto the interstate, to protect the travelers, because you had this hype becoming national, appearing in the New York Times, and AAA, the American Automobile Association, was telling people not to take I-295, and even though it was the fastest, best, safest, still the safest route. Because at the time, if you had to go through Jacksonville, and you had, on I-95, you had the drawbridge. You had the original Fuller Warren Bridge. Beautiful bridge, but a drawbridge. Interstate 95, before they did the widening and the raising to where it was no longer a drawbridge. So that was where the city was at. And so in 1992, I can still remember my father and I would be in the car going down 295, heading towards Orange Park for, let's say, dinner or a movie or something like that. And you'd see in the grassy median, because at that point the interstate wasn't as wide, you'd see these National Guard troops. But a message was sent, and I think there was some reassurance to people. And the simple fact is, people wanted to go to Disney, people wanted to go to Miami, people wanted to go to Key West, people wanted to visit Jacksonville, visit points north, south, west. So everything went along as normal. People were arrested, and it's something you don't forget about. But it does show sometimes the power of hype. But also you do see with this significant stand being taken by the leadership, and if anything, a message being sent. If anything, it settled some nerves. Meanwhile, in downtown Jacksonville, there was a lot of construction going on around the old Acosta Bridge. So what ended up happening was, in 1992, the first span of the Acosta, the new Acosta, was opened. So traffic was going to be diverted onto this new span, and the old Acosta Bridge would then close forever to be demolished to make way for the second span of the new Acosta. And so I was so impressed by all that was going on that I gave a presentation to my political science class at Forrest High School, now known as Westside High. I gave this presentation, I believe, in February of 1992. And so I talked about this great change that was happening, all the different things that were going on. And you can see here the Florida Times-Union article showing the detours and all the different things. So that was an amazing time that I look back with a lot of fondness. Now, 1992 was a presidential election year, and everyone was really excited about politics, especially myself, even though I wouldn't even be able to vote in the 1992 presidential election. It was the last presidential election I would not even be able to vote in. But the people of Jacksonville, of course, that could vote, voted, and you can see the trend. So looking at Jacksonville, we can see a lot of Republicans voted. A lot of people voted to keep incumbent President George H.W. Bush in office. Ultimately, of course, nationally, the Democrat, Bill Clinton, governor of Arkansas, he was elected president, would take office on January 20th, 1993. But when you look at things here, you see a substantial Republican vote, even with the vote for the independent candidate H. Ross Perot, who was in the 1992 and 1996 elections. So there is a trend for more people to identify as Republican, and ultimately even Mayor Austin will change his party affiliation during his term from Democrat to Republican. So we know in 1993 Jacksonville gets an NFL expansion team. And last show I told you about Touchdown Jacksonville. Now, there's someone that was involved in Touchdown Jacksonville. There were actually numerous people involved. Tom Petway, the publisher of the Florida Times-Union, Carl Cannon. There's also a gentleman named Ron Weaver, the brother of who would ultimately become the first Jacksonville NFL team owner, Wayne Weaver. Wayne Weaver ran a chain of shoe stores called 9 West. And so people were gathering together. These were very motivated, and let's face it, very rich people. And they really wanted this thing to happen. Now, when power's involved, when laws are involved, especially when money's involved, well, the Jacksonville City Council gets involved. And boy, do things get interesting in 1993. And if you were to look at 1993, and we'll talk about it, you'll be amazed that it happened. 1992 made me the man that I am today, and I greatly enjoyed having the opportunity to present to you Jacksonville as it was in the year 1992. And increasingly in these shows, I'm talking to you about the experiences, the memories, the thoughts, the feelings that I had during these special years in Jacksonville's history. So I want to let you know also that in 1992 I had the opportunity, among other boys in Jacksonville, to represent Jacksonville at American Legion Boys State in Tallahassee, Florida, in the state capitol, specifically at Florida State University. And that honor, being appointed, among others, by American Legion Lakeshore Post 137, it had great impact on my life. I visited the state of Florida State University during this time, and I had a great time. Learned a lot, and I'll always treasure those times. And also, I was excited about politics, and I was excited about government. And so I was going to end up getting a bachelor's degree in political science from Florida State in 1997 and a master's degree in public administration from Florida State in 1999. And I was going to have all these great, amazing experiences. I was going to be going to Florida State in 1995. But when you look back, when they went to take the senior class picture in the gymnasium of Nathan Bedford Forrest High School, now known as Westside High, when they did it, I had different plans. So I wore my Gator sweatshirt because I was going to be going to University of Florida, and I was going to get an education degree, and I was going to be a teacher. That's what I thought. And so I'll leave you with a zoom in that I did of the senior class picture that was taken. And so you get a chance to see the people in my senior class as well as me and my friends. And it was a great time. A lot happening, and I look back at 1992 with such excitement even today about what all was ahead for me. But of course, we all know that there was a lot ahead for the city of Jacksonville. And so much I got from this city. And so I bring these shows to you because the city has been was so special and kind to me. And I got 93, 94, 95 to give you too. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. See you later.